Hi there friends, we just had Kam VedBrat on our first episode of Desktops in the Cloud, the Group Program Manager of the Windows Virtual Desktop team.
Hi everyone.
And he just shared with us all the latest updates around Windows Virtual Desktop and way more. Are you curious yet? Let's start the first episode.
Hi there friends, and welcome on the first episode of Desktops in the Cloud, your new technical-driven video podcast with guest speakers from Microsoft Engineering and as well the worldwide virtual desktop communities.
And if you're interested in participating in an episode, feel free to ping us on our social media or our website, desktopsinthecloud.com.
So for the first episode, we have the great privilege to have Kam VedBrat as our first guest, the Group Program Manager of the Windows Virtual Desktop team. So hi Kam, how are you?
I'm doing great today. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
So can you tell the viewers something more about yourself and your role within Microsoft?
Sure. So I'm a bit of an old timer at Microsoft. I started back in 1998 working on Internet Explorer 5, and at the time that was an exciting new upstart technology we had. And over the years, I've worked on a number of different products. I worked in user experience in the consumer space for a while. I spent about a decade, a little more than that, working in graphics, working on DirectX and our AI platform in Windows. And then earlier this year, right there in January, I moved over to lead the Windows Virtual Desktop team. So it's been a wild ride, but I'm super excited and having a lot of fun.
And so I always like to hear the story behind people that joined Microsoft. So how did you eventually came into Microsoft? Can you tell something about that?
Sure. So so Microsoft is actually the only place I've ever worked in my entire life. I came right out of university. I was a Microsoft intern the summer before I started. And at the time, I worked on a product called FrontPage. Those of you might remember, it was a pretty awesome HTML editing package that we were selling at the time. It came through an acquisition from a company called Vermeer. And it was just a super fun internship. I got to work with some incredibly smart people. The campus was awesome. The Puget Sound region's a beautiful place to live and work. And so after that summer, I was hooked, and I went back to university, and I was like, I cannot graduate soon enough and get back there. And then I came back a year later to start on Internet Explorer.
Yeah, that are really good products that I know from the past, of course. But something other that I saw while doing some research is that you were the PM of Arrow, right? Can you tell a little bit more about that?
That's true. So I was a PM on the user experience team in Windows for a number of years. And it was during the period of time that we had shipped Windows XP SP2 and Windows Vista. And one of the things that I got to do when I worked on that product was I was the lead program manager I was the first lead program manager for a thing called the Desktop Window Manager. And that included all of our compositing capabilities and the way we use hardware acceleration to actually draw desktop UI. And so I got to work on the Arrow project with a number of super talented designers and engineers at the time. That was really exciting to kind of try to give Windows a bit of a facelift. And a lot of that stuff really kind of carried forward, and for me, helped me sort of set my direction career-wise. It's what got me into computer graphics, and after that product shipped, I was excited to dig deeper in the graphics stack, and so that's how I moved to the graphics team in Windows. And I worked on 2D graphics, image processing, text, and eventually, helped the team build Direct3D 12, and working across PC and Xbox and our AI platform. So some really exciting stuff over the years.
Yeah, when I hear that, I thought that was probably the connection as well. In the move to the WVD team, I remember when I started my career, and I really started to learn about desktop virtualization from the beginning, and it never lost or went away. And that's probably with you as well, experience, desktops, everything around that. So you are now part of the WVD team for almost a year or so. So can you share a little bit about that? So what was the time when you joined, and how it has been and how it is today?
Sure. So yeah, I started in right at the very beginning of the year. I think we announced the change January 15th, you know, our CVP at the time talked to me about it a little before that, but I started officially in January. And at the time, you know, it was a really exciting time to join the team because the product had just gone through the sort of GA release right at the end of 2019, and we had started bringing up production customers with production workloads on WVD in, you know, sort of a fully supported way on top of the GA release. And so when I joined, you know, we were just starting, and they asked me to take ownership of the PM team because they wanted someone who could come and really help the product scale up. And I remember, you know, it was funny. My very first, one of the first things I did, I had a conversation with Scott Manchester, who was the outgoing GPM, and Scott said to me, "Cam, if there's one thing you do that's outbound when you get started, you got to go to this iGel Disrupt conference in Germany, because everybody involved in the desktop virtualization space, they're all there. And so if you want to deep dive into who's who in the space, you know, go to Germany, do the thing." And that conference was in I think it was the first week of February. It was like right at the beginning of the year, and it was in Munich. And so that's where I got to meet you, Christian, and a bunch of our global black belts, and a ton of field folks, a ton of partners, you know, across the like system integrators, hardware vendors, ISVs. There are all these folks that are kind of involved in the virtualization space, and all of them are now bringing their solutions to WVD. And so it was nice to kind of just dive in deep and meet everybody. And what I didn't realize was, coming back from Germany, you know, by the time I got back, it was, you know, second week in February. A month later, we were all sent home, and every organization around the world was like stepping back, saying, "Gosh, how do I enable remote work?" And that was when I realized I was like really in the deep end of the pool, because as a brand new service, we really had to scale up and scale out very, very quickly. You know, whenever you design a world scale service like this, in order to manage costs, you have a specific amount of capacity and usage in mind. And the massive influx of customers really kept us on our toes, just staying ahead scalability wise. And you know, I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a team of super talented engineers who, you know, rolled up their sleeves, looked at the problem, looked at, you know, who was coming in, what the rate was, made sure that we were able to kind of maintain a high quality of service for everybody who was on the service. And then, you know, we started investing in more features, more capabilities in the service, just to help more organizations get bigger. So definitely, you know, a crash course, super fast kind of growth. Had to learn a lot in a short period of time, but I've had a blast doing it. You know, everybody in the space, they're so nice, they're so considerate. The team is awesome and super talented, and so it's really been a blast.
Yeah, and I can only acknowledge that feeling, because I work just like you on a daily basis with the PM's engineering team, and they are very energized, and yeah, it's amazing. You can only do like such thing while you have a good team where you can trust and build on, right? So but before we use that as a segue into what's new and take us down the road of like what has been or has been improved on the service, can you share some of the numbers or something that were like happening during the pandemic? Not to be very specific, but just like to give the viewers like a feeling.
Sure, yeah. So you know, we've seen just an immense amount of growth in usage in the service, and you know, probably the best number I can point to is one that was shared in our earnings call in the month or so. I think it was in May or April. It was after the first quarter, where, you know, just in that period of time, from March until you know, when we had that call, we just saw like 3x growth in usage, and in something like, you know, I think, if I remember right, it was 8 or 12 weeks. It was really fast, and you know, that was pretty staggering. Just, you know, to see that just big influx, and it was really exciting because, you know, one of the things that happens is you get a view into the diversity of customers who are using the service, and what we would see is, you know, every day a new customer would come online, and they would just shoot to the top of number of seats or monthly active users, And so, we'd go from, it'd be a mining company and then a healthcare company and a local government and some energy company and education, like whatever it was, just kind of one leapfrogging the next. And so it was an exciting time, both from a growth perspective and just the diversity was really interesting.
So Cam, can you tell us, just to level set everybody in case there's someone who's watching who's unsure, tell us like what WVD is and specifically what separates it from traditional VDI and RDS?
Yeah, of course. So Windows Virtual Desktop is it's a service on Azure that enables you to deploy cloud-based VDI environments to enable remote work for your organization. And the neat thing about WVD, when you compare it to like a traditional RDS deployment, is that a lot of the core infrastructure of connecting to your virtual desktops and configuring your virtual desktop environment, all of that infrastructure is taken care of for you. So if you think about an on-prem deployment, you would deploy an RDSH server role, you would have maybe an RD gateway, you would have a connection broker, you would have all of these sort of separate roles you would have to stand up and deploy and then manage independently, one after the other. And so what we've been working to do is really replace a lot of that with a PaaS service that just you bring your VMs, your policy, your users, your apps, and you focus on what's specific to your deployment. And the work of just keeping the PaaS service up and running, managing the broker, making sure that connections back to the host pool work the right way, all of that is handled for you by WVD. And so it's an exciting way to simplify the way you do remote desktop.
Yeah, simplify and sounds like a lot of scale happens really as the platform. With that in mind, how about some recent updates and maybe a demo or two?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to share some with you. So we've been working very hard over the last roughly year since we launched to just keep improving the service and make sure that organizations have what they need when they come online and start using the service as we've grown alongside our usage. And I would kind of point to a couple examples. The first is the work we've done to make deploying Windows Virtual Desktop easier for organizations. Probably one of our top points of feedback, when we launched at the end of the year in 2019, was the whole process was very technical. It was very command line, and there was no user-friendly way to not kind of just get in and configure the service. And so in our spring update, which went GA right at the end of the summer, we added two really big things. We added the ability to go and create and manage a WVD environment from the Azure portal. And then we made all of the underlying API and objects that are used to manage it, we made them all based on the ARM infrastructure that's already in Azure. And so that gave us a lot of really great opportunities to just integrate with other services in Azure. And we continue to build on that as we go. So here on the screen, I have a quick demo. This is just a quick look at the Azure portal. And you can see there's this really easy to use wizard that kind of just gives you a view of how you get set up. It sets up your host pool. You pick a golden image and you say, here's the image I want. And you set up your network environment and boom, you're done. You've got an environment up and running. So that's an exciting thing. One of the other things that I'm really excited about is just the way that we've followed the growth of our customer usage around the world. When we launched a year ago, we launched as a worldwide service. You could put your VMs in any Azure region. And then we deployed optimizations in 5 regions where we just had the most customer usage. And we've really seen that usage spread. And so you can see on the map on the screen here, we actually now have a ton more regions where we've deployed. We have a ton more regions where we have deployed optimizations to improve latency for those end users who are picking up using the service and wanting to kind of get faster response times, faster connection times to their VMs. So that's been a really exciting thing. And another thing I can point to in this area of kind of regional growth is we brought online our preview of using Windows Virtual Desktop in the Azure's US Gov United States government region. And that's a pretty exciting thing for organizations that are looking to serve their end users in that environment, which is obviously like sort of a pretty exciting new area. And so that's in preview now, and that'll GA when it's ready. So some really great growth sort of geographically. The other cool thing is just when I look at getting started, I talked about the portal and how now that we have the portal, you can walk in and there's a pretty user-friendly UI. There are some folks who don't want to kind of go through all the details there, and they really want just a templated way to get up and running. And so for those folks, we've built this thing, which is our Windows Virtual Desktop Quickstart. And what this does is it actually sets up an Azure DevOps pipeline for deploying your environment. And so with this thing, you can get up and running very, very quickly. It's minutes of on keyboard time and a couple hours of just deployment time, and you've got an environment up, and you can start putting your users in, start adding your apps, and really getting folks up and running. This thing is really exciting, both for a quick deployment, and even if you just want to kick the tires, it's a great way to learn about it. And one more thing I just want to share with you is the work we've done to improve latency and performance when you're using Microsoft Teams with Windows Virtual Desktop. We have a ton of organizations that want to enable real-time communication in their virtual desktop environments, and we've worked really hard to really improve the experience for that. And so what we've done here is we've actually moved the work of encoding and decoding audio and video in the Teams call out of the virtual machines down into the clients. And so what happens is when you make a Teams call with Windows Virtual Desktop, your two clients will make a WebRTC connection between them, and all of the pixel traffic and audio traffic will go directly between the endpoints. And that just makes for a much more natural and comfortable calling experience without latency waiting for people to hear what you said or for it to come through.
Yeah, that's really cool, and as well like a pivotal product during this pandemic. But can you show something about that, like performance improvement?
Oh, absolutely. So, the perf win here is very large. And so here's just an example of a measurement we made on a VM with the Teams optimizations before they were installed and then after we enabled them. And you can see it's a pretty dramatic reduction in CPU utilization when you use the optimizations, going from 12% to between 1% to 2%. You really get a win there. And what that win translates into is better density. So you can have more end users on the same virtual machine and reduce your overall VM utilization. And that saves costs, and it's a great way to kind of really take advantage of the capabilities you get with Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session, which is exclusive to Windows Virtual Desktop.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So yeah, thanks to update the viewers, of course, but Ignite is around the corner. Can you share a little bit of what they can expect, or what kind of breakout sessions are like at Ignite? Can you share something?
Absolutely. So there's a handful of things that we have in the works for Ignite. Of course, we've saved a bunch of really exciting product announcements that we're going to roll out, so tune in for those. But we have a handful of sessions. We're going to do an overview where we talk a little bit about kind of the state of the world with WVD, and we'll talk through some of our new product announcements there. We have a breakout session that's really focused on security and how you can use Azure Security Center and Windows Defender alongside Windows Virtual Desktop to get kind of a 360 view of how you can deploy and secure Windows Virtual Desktop and really have confidence about the environment that you're building. And then we have a great session that goes into a lot of the nuts and bolts of how you can deploy and manage a Windows Virtual Desktop environment. So some pretty cool sessions and announcements coming. I'm excited for Ignite.
Yeah, so if this not makes you excited to register for Ignite, I should definitely encourage you to do so. So besides the updates and the new things that are coming and announced during Ignite, what do you expect that the service will do from today and a year or so? Because it is like the demand is already amazing, but we are just getting started probably. So what's your feeling about that?
Well, yeah, I'm super excited to see how the service grows, and I definitely expect the service to continue to grow. From a work perspective, the big thing that we're looking at now is how do we make it easier for customers to scale up their deployments and to manage their scale deployments more effectively using the using Windows Virtual Desktop's native capabilities. And so, when you look at once you've got a very large deployment with thousands or tens of thousands of customers on it, or end users on it, the set of tools and the set of kind of overall capabilities you're looking for to ensure a really high quality of service for your organization, those change a bit. And so we're investing a great deal in advances in our capabilities to make that possible.
Okay, that's amazing. So the energy level within Microsoft, keeps raising up around desktop virtualization. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. It's been exciting to see the growth and see how the company's just been willing to invest more and more over time in this scenario.
So Kam, we've talked about virtual desktop and scaling, and I know one of the value props is that WVD can be accessed from any device. Does this mean the end of the fat client in favor of the web browser?
I love that question, and that's one I actually get more often than you'd think. I don't think so. I think it just speaks to the flexibility and diversity of work these days. You definitely see people trying to get work done in all kinds of new environments. And even before the pandemic hit, we saw a great deal of kind of explosion in mobility and folks kind of looking at different form factors to work with. And then now with folks working from home, there's another dimension to that. And so I think really what I've seen is two things. Like, one, there's a set of things that used to be reserved for a thick client that people just really need to be able to make possible anywhere. And being able to get at a rich Windows desktop environment from any device, that's definitely a win, whether it's through a browser or through some of the rich clients that we ship. But then there are situations where the rich client really does have a ton of advantage. And if you think about the description of how our AV redirection works with Microsoft Teams, that's a great example of how we're using the rich APIs and the capabilities that are in the client to do something pretty unique. And those sorts of things, I think they're really only possible if you can make changes in the client, in the control plane, and in the VM itself. And so being able to optimize things end to end to really ensure a great experience and great efficiency, that's a thing that's not going to go away. And so we're going to keep innovating in all of our clients, including the HTML5 client, as we go forward, because I think just the usage is going to keep going.
So before we end up, so great conversation, and we definitely need to point like a new moment to rediscover and do and check all the things that we covered today and all the things that are coming. But just to keep up after Post Ignite, what can the viewers, the customers, the partners, what can they do to keep up? Is there a public roadmap or something?
Yeah, so we do have a public roadmap on the M365 roadmap site, and I think there's one link to on the Azure site as well. And the best thing to do is to go to aka.ms/learnwvd. That's where our learning path is, and check out the Quickstart at aka.ms/WVD Quickstart. Both of those things are great resources to get started, to stay in touch, and to just sort of connect with the latest information.
Okay, so thanks for the great tips. Thanks for being our first guest. It's a real honor, and we hope to see you next in another episode. So thanks, and see you soon.
Awesome, it's been great. See you soon.